Die after sunset. Lighting actually dictates whether you survive in this roguelite shooter. Enemies are relatively manageable while standing in direct sunlight, but if they drag you into the shadows or the sun goes down, they mutate into massive, aggressive variants that completely ruin your run. It forces this frantic positional awareness, where you frantically track the sun's angle while shooting. Dropping an 85% discount brings it to a ridiculous $299, which is basically stealing considering the sheer volume of chaotic builds and unlockable gear you get to experiment with. Republic of Pirates. Fusing a city builder with real-time naval combat shouldn't work this seamlessly. Establishing a functional pirate utopia requires aggressive supply chain management, where maintaining rum production is literally a matter of life and death for your crew's morale. Seeing a game with this much mechanical depth drop down to $9.99 makes pulling the trigger incredibly easy. You can spend an entire afternoon tweaking sugarcane logistics just to fund a massive galleon, only to lose it during a beautifully rendered broadside fight against rival captains. NanoApostle. Boss rushes are entirely built on the satisfaction of mastering a seemingly impossible encounter, and this sci-fi brawler absolutely nails that specific high. The learning curve is intentionally brutal. Expect to get crushed repeatedly while memorizing complex attack patterns and learning exactly when to execute a perfect parry. When you finally break a boss's posture and rip out their core, the adrenaline spike is massive. At $10.99, this is easily one of the smartest purchases of the sale for anyone who craves high-stakes mechanical precision. CloverPit. Do not let the charming, relaxing aesthetic fool you for a single second. The platforming puzzles here escalate into brilliantly devious territory that requires some seriously creative spatial thinking. Often, the solution to clearing a stage involves manipulating the environment in ways that initially feel like you're breaking the game's physics. Snagging it for $5.99 feels absurdly cheap given how many times you'll end up staring at the screen, whispering out loud trying to calculate the perfect sequence of jumps. Legacy of Kain Defiance Remastered. Action games from this era have a very specific flavor of dramatic flair, and tossing enemies into wall spikes using vampire telekinesis remains incredibly satisfying. The camera logic can definitely show its age in tighter corridors, and some of the platforming feels a bit rigid by modern standards, but the voice acting and gothic storytelling still eclipse most modern AAA releases. Picking this up for $12.49 is a fantastic excuse to experience a legendary piece of gaming history that refuses to pull its narrative punches. Run Pizza Run. Sometimes you just need absolute, unadulterated nonsense. The premise is entirely built around delivering a pizza on foot across a city where every driver is apparently highly motivated to run you over. The physics are entirely unpredictable, meaning a simple crossing can result in your character getting violently catapulted over a bus while desperately trying to keep the cheese intact. For just 89 cents, the sheer volume of uncontrollable laughter this generates with friends in a Discord call is mandatory. Knight vs. Giant, the Broken Excalibur. Rebuilding Camelot requires endlessly throwing yourself into gorgeous hand-drawn biomes to extract power from legendary giants. The weapon synergies get delightfully out of hand once you start combining different elemental blessings from the Knights of the Round Table. You can easily find yourself wiping out entire screens of enemies with a single highly buffed dash attack. Catching a 75% discount brings this down to $4.99, offering a massive amount of satisfying progression and build crafting for less than the cost of a coffee. Pocket Bravery. Fighting games usually demand massive time investments just to understand the basics, but this manages to cram deeply competitive mechanics into a highly approachable retro aesthetic. Underneath the chibi character designs lies a robust combo system, complete with cancels, elemental attacks, and intense mind games. Even if you aren't a hardcore tournament player, the $11.99 price tag provides a fantastic entry point to practice links and zoning without feeling overwhelmed by bloated control schemes. Turnbound. Predicting the future is literally the only way to survive these encounters. Every single move your enemies plan to make is telegraphed on the timeline, turning combat into a highly reactive puzzle where you shuffle turn orders to create devastating chain reactions. There is zero RNG to blame when things go wrong. It all comes down to how cleverly you manipulate the board. Dropping to $6.74 makes this an incredibly easy recommendation for strategy fans who obsess over executing the perfect damage-free turn. Thunder Spikes Volleyball. Arcade sports titles rarely capture this specific blend of intense timing and ridiculous special moves. Rallies quickly devolve into lightning-fast guessing games at the net, punishing anyone who flinches early. The mechanics are simple to grasp, but figuring out how to consistently block a meteor strike spike takes some serious practice. Snagging this for $8.44 is perfect for those nights when you just want a highly competitive, fast-paced arcade experience without having to learn complex franchise management systems. King of Retail 2. Retail management simulators rarely let you get your hands this dirty. Beyond just designing the store layout and ordering inventory, you literally have to deal with the chaotic reality of customer behavior, from mopping up spills to actively confronting people trying to steal your merchandise. The level of micromanagement is staggering in the best way possible. Picking it up for $12.99 guarantees your weekend will entirely vanish as you obsessively try to optimize your electronics department's profit margins. Rolling Hills Cozy Sushi Restaurant. Running a business shouldn't feel this relaxing. Playing as a little robot trying to elevate a sleepy town's culinary scene completely bypasses the stressful timer mechanics usually found in cooking games. Instead, the focus shifts to befriending locals, decorating the space, and slowly building a menu that attracts bigger crowds. Considering it's currently sitting at $4.49, you are securing dozens of hours of pure, unadulterated serotonin and a perfect palate cleanser between heavier games. Big Hops Together. Co-op games that force physical tethers between players always create the absolute best arguments. The momentum physics require a level of synchronization that usually breaks down immediately, resulting in one frog dragging the other into a pit of spikes. You will constantly yell at your friends to just stand still while you try to calculate a swing. Getting this for $11.99 is cheap investment for a weekend of highly volatile, entirely hilarious cooperative suffering. How Many Dudes? Physics-based deduction is an incredibly weird genre, but trying to accurately count a massive pile of flailing, ragdolling bodies before a timer runs out is bizarrely entertaining. The scenarios get increasingly unhinged, throwing in visual obstructions and ridiculous modifiers that make simple counting a chaotic mess. It's a fantastic icebreaker game for groups. For $9.74, this easily replaces most standard party games in your library and guarantees some deeply confused reactions from anyone watching over your shoulder. Squirreled Away. Stealth games rarely make the stakes this personal. Navigating suburban backyards while carrying an absurd amount of nuts fundamentally alters your movement mechanics, turning a simple fence jump into a massive tactical risk. Do you drop your hard-earned stash to outrun a dog, or waddle slowly through a bush hoping the homeowner doesn't look out the window? It's a surprisingly tense loop, and grabbing it at $7.45 feels like an absolute steal for such a weirdly compelling concept. Everdell. Adapting tabletop games to digital formats often ruins the magic, but the transition here is flawless. The worker placement and city building mechanics are notoriously tight, requiring you to carefully plan seasonal transitions to maximize your resource engines. The UI handles all the complex scoring math instantly, letting you focus entirely on drafting the perfect combination of critters and structures. At $9.99, it completely removes the setup time of the physical version while retaining every ounce of the strategic depth. Knights of Honor 2: Sovereign. Grand strategy usually requires a minor degree in spreadsheet management, but this manages to streamline the complexity without dumbing down the tactics. The transition from managing royal marriages and kingdom espionage on the world map directly into real-time tactical battles feels incredibly smooth. There are some minor UI quirks when managing massive empires, but paying $11.24 for a medieval simulator that actually respects your time is a phenomenally smart play for the sale. SpongeBob SquarePants Titans of the Tide. Licensed platformers rarely have movement mechanics this fluid. Chaining together water-based abilities to clear massive gaps and wipe out mobs genuinely feels closer to modern movement shooters than a nostalgic cartoon game. The boss fights actually demand some sharp reflexes, making it surprisingly engaging even if you haven't watched the show in decades. A 50% cut drops it to $20, which is the exact right price for a polished, highly kinetic action platformer that completely over-delivers on fun. Disney Epic Mickey Rebrushed. Moral choices in games usually boil down to dialogue trees, but here it's tied entirely to whether you use paint or thinner on the actual geometry of the world. Erasing obstacles is faster, but actively rebuilding the twisted wasteland yields vastly different environmental interactions. The camera occasionally fights you in tight corridors, a relic of its original era, but the atmosphere remains brilliant. Securing this remake for $16.99 is a brilliant way to experience one of the most uniquely dark concepts Disney ever greenlit. The Raven Remastered. Pacing is everything in a good murder mystery. This embraces the slow, methodical atmosphere of a classic Agatha Christie novel, demanding you actually pay attention to offhand comments and environmental inconsistencies. The movement is deliberately slow, which won't appeal to everyone, but it forces you to absorb the excellent writing and tension building aboard trains and cruise ships. For a measly $3.99, getting access to narrative this well crafted is basically the definition of a hidden bargain.